Hi, welcome to Consider This, the show where we would like you to reconsider the news of the day. I'm Melisa Idris.
And I'm Sharaad Kuttan.
And today, one of the biggest news for me personally was the comments made by Perlis Mufti Mohd Asri Zainul Abidin. He defended his remarks on preserving the Malays' cultural and political dominance. He suggested that Malaysia needs a strong, dominant leader like Saddam Hussein, and this is to keep the country from being divided.
Yeah, Melissa, I guess it's again one of those instances when people are jumping on this because of that headline that put Saddam Hussein next to Asri's ideas about political dominance. And I think that if we read the statement, at least it's reported more carefully, we perhaps might come away with a slightly different view about what the man is saying, because as you would have noted, Melissa, many people jumped on this and said, well, do we want a mass murderer? Do we want a man who is, who's known for his violations of human rights and democracy in his own country?
Right.
I mean, the late Saddam Hussein, of course. But if you listen to and read that article, Asri does in fact say, we never liked Saddam Hussein. He was just trying to make a point. It was an analogy.
Well, for me, one of the things that he said that caught my attention was the comment he said that sometimes in a place with a lot of gangsters, the leader needs to be one of the gangsters as well. Now, I'm just wondering whether that's true. So a lot of people, in response to this article, had kind of thrown history back, right, talking about Saddam Hussein. But I'm wondering what you think, Sharaad. Do you think that there's any element of truth in the fact that you need a strong man to keep the peace?
Well, I think, Melissa, it's really a question of your political ideology and what do you think are important as values. I think what Asri is trying to make an argument for is for kind of benign hegemony. I think when he reads Kuttan and Melayu, at least it's been practiced over the last 50 or 60 years, he thinks of it as being rather benign. So it's dominance, but it's been accommodative. It's allowed everybody, as it were, to live with the recognition that Malay culture and political power must be central to the formula. Now, that's not something that sits well with Democrats who want to see the kind of radical equality that democracy often, promises, and radical equality that even citizenship promises. So here you have perhaps, an ongoing struggle as to the meaning of the nation state in Malaysia.
Well, the other kind of problematic area in this is how is this comment going to translate in Sabah and Sarawak? Because it's a very kind of peninsula-centric thinking, assuming that what's good for Perlis and the rest of Peninsula Malaysia is good for Sabah and Sarawak.
Right. In fact, political activist Peter John Jaban denounced the Perlis Mufti. And again, I think, it's one of those situations where Peninsula people often, as you put it, Melissa, kind of peninsula-centric or navel-gazing, just assume that the country is even across the Federation. Especially at a time when the two territories, Sabah and Sarawak, are pushing for the states' rights. So we're going to be talking, in fact, about MH63 and the implications. There's an affective level, apart from the kind of legalistic issues and the constitutional issues, there's also a question of sentiment. Listening to Peninsula people speak in a way that excludes the realities of Sabahans and Sarawakians, I think, again, does nothing to help the country stay together.
That's right. So we are going to be looking at the progress made on the MA63 talks. But before we do that, I would like to give a little bit of attention to everyone's favorite controversial preacher, Dr. Zakir Naik. Now, he has apologized for causing any misunderstanding. This is after being questioned twice by the police for his alleged racial and religious remarks. Now, he said racism is evil and he denies that he is a racist as claimed. In fact, he's appealed to non-Muslim Malaysians to watch his speech in its entirety. Now, the problem is his apology was largely read as a non-apology. Why do you think it was?
Well, because in many ways, I think Zakir Naik didn't address some of the concerns that have been raised. And, it isn't just simply about racism. In fact, if you look and read Dr. Mahathir, the Prime Minister's statement, it's clear that the Prime Minister recognizes what Zakir Naik is doing is playing politics. The man has insinuated himself into domestic politics. He has chosen sides. He's gotten the largesse or the patronage of certain political actors. And that's really much more, I think, disturbing at the end of the day than the kind of comments that he's made that, have attacked this community, that community. And perhaps, even if you take a deeper look at, his position in or location in a kind of an Indian context, you might make the argument that maybe he is not racist as such, but he's playing politics, and race is so much part of the local, kind of language of politics.
Okay,
here.
well, I feel that he's dominated, enough airtime and headlines in this past week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. It feels like it's been a long time. But the question is, what have we learned from this past weeks? Now, if we want to wrap this story up, and he's apologized and we accept his apology, generally speaking, what is it that we can say we have learned from this episode of this incident?
Melissa, there's also this other thing. The former IGP has come out to kind of denounce Zakir Naik, calling for his expulsion as well. I mean, a whole range of people. But I do think there's one thing we're kind of missing somehow, which is I haven't seen in the media any real investigations into the money trail. I mean, who exactly supports Zakir Naik and his organization? How big is it? Even if he leaves the country, does he leave behind a network of people that share the same ideologies and exclusivist ideology? What about all those other elements that will continue? What about his family? I think there are a lot of complexities to the story. It isn't simply about Zakir Naik at this point.
Not just about the one man. All right, in just a couple of minutes, we're going to take a closer look at MA63 and the progress made in talks. So stay tuned to consider this.